My turn.
Yeah, your turn.
My turn. Now in front. They're nearly organised, I know. It's a bit like taking school assembly, isn't it? Empty front rows, no one. Bottle of beer under the desk. So, don't worry, it's large font for this. Yeah, so I mean, echoing what John said, I mean, welcome everyone, and how good to see you all here. And I mean, what incredibly fantastic weather we've got, especially after the washout of last weekend, and the fact that it's a special event for Emily and it's actually nice weather is almost unheard of. And her birthday's on the 20th of August, and I think that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, the number of birthday occasions which have been, we've had foggy weather on the beach.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, with
Had a
Frankie, wherever she is. Yeah, there she is.
Had a washout for your 18th, I think.
Yeah, wash out for the 18th with all the family
And many more. So today, brilliant. And I mean, thanks to all of you for making the not inconsiderable journey to get here today. And I think a special mention has to go to Guy, who's come all the way from the west of Ireland. I mean, that's probably the furthest of any guests. So thanks, Guy, for that. Indeed, hopefully everyone who set out for the wedding has made it here by now. I think that Emily and John's choice of wedding location was meant as something of a trek or a quest maybe for their friends and family, in seeing just how inaccessible a venue they could have had. However, I'm going to have to put the glasses on, it's still not big enough. Although I believe in the end they went easy on us. There's other shortlisted options, I believe, included Stone Circle in Derbyshire, the top of Silbury Hill, the cave in the Western Isles only accessible at low tide, or Howell's house in Rivendell. So we got off pretty light. So I mentioned shortlisted options then. As you know, the wedding has been in the planning for some time now, and for those of you who know Emily well, those of John's family who've got to know her over the past couple of years, and to anyone else as a warning, she's a lady who loves a list. Short list, long list, pre-list list, items for consideration on the pre-list list. Not that Emily likes to be in control or anything, just well prepared.
Not a control freak, definitely not a control freak.
A really sincere and heartfelt welcome again to you all, friends and family of Emily and John. Especially to John's mother, Bridget, who we'd only met for the first time yesterday evening, as well as other members of John's family, and to their friends. I had the fortune to meet some of you on the Stag weekend a few weeks ago in Derbyshire. Notice I didn't say good fortune, following the resulting hangover that John's just been mentioning. And the lingering memory, what there is of it, and I think you've seen up there the aftertaste of the Frisbee served rum, whiskey and beer cocktail. It's one I wish that would go away. Yeah, thanks for that, Ollie, our Shopmeister General. Also, best wishes, of course, to those of Emily and John's family and friends who couldn't be here with us today. And I think it's fair to single out Emily's nanny and grandma, who couldn't be here. I'm sure there are also members of John's family who we would have liked to have been here, and we're thinking of you all. Of course, the main reason for the father of the bride's speech is to tell you all, especially John, something more about Emily. So you really know what a wonderful person she is, and what you're letting yourself in for. Although this is hardly a traditional wedding, I'd hate to stray away from this particular tradition, whatever Emily might think. Of course, John's father Jim is also here with us, And I had the good fortune to have met Jim a couple of times before today. And I don't know if you know, but he is an accomplished poet. Well, I'm sure he's too modest to admit that. And as some of you will know, I mean, I've always enjoyed the occasional stanza myself. So for the rest of the speech, we're going into verse mode. There once was a girl called Emily who went to study archaeology. But instead of a cracked pot, she found a big Scot. And a life full of good harmony. Actually, don't worry, I'm not doing all of that. I don't want upstage Jim. So back to the main theme. Emily. Right, I've had to keep pinching myself these last weeks and days as today has got closer, getting Emily and John's big day into perspective. At 26, Emily is 3 years older than I was on my wedding day, 25, oh no, hang on a minute, 27 years ago. Yet when I think of myself at that age and Emily now, it's hard to equate the two. 26 years, from baby to married woman. It's been, in the words of every X Factor contestant, quite a journey. A journey that's taken Emily from South Somerset, where she was born in Yeovil Hospital, to Sheffield, Norfolk, York for the last 8 years, and now after a winter break in Somerset, to Scotland. Throughout her life, I think it's fair to say there have been certain themes which helped to make her the wonderful person she is today. One major theme is her love of stories, which surfaced recently with a work at Harewood, where she thought of imaginative ways to present and interpret the story of the house and landscape for visitors. Her imagination's always been to the fore, leading to often unconventional ways of approaching work assignments. And here speaks one who had the pleasure of teaching her A-level history and marking her essays and coursework. I guess this came from her love of stories about myths, legends and fantasy. Her two constants being the tales of Robin Hood and Lord of the Rings. Many a family walk, or probably that's every family walk, turned into one of the adventures of Robin Hood, or a part of the quest for the ring. They probably still do, at least in your head. Here she was invariably accompanied by her trusty Much the Miller's son, one of her earliest cuddly toy rabbits, who still guards her bed in Norfolk. No doubt those who made it up to Malham tomorrow will be treated to one of her narratives as we go. Archaeology, history and landscape are deep-rooted passions of Emily's, and our own shared past has many occasions when we've been on trips to a range of different places. None better than I was researching my book on English battlefields. It's still available, I believe, in selected... It's a selected remaindered bookshop. There we go. Won't even get a royalty now. When Emily was about 15 and getting into medieval reenactment, we spent one very hot weekend at the Battle of Tewkesbury reenactment, which was great for me, but Emily spent the whole time in a thick woolen gown. Not only did she look like a medieval peasant, she certainly smelled like it. All in the name of historical authenticity. It's days like that that must somehow have convinced her she wanted to study archaeology at uni. And if it hadn't been for that, we probably wouldn't be here today. Wearing camouflage gear, including a fisherman's hat at age 11, I seem to remember. Playing Dungeons and Dragons at 15. Listening to Funeral for a Friend at 17. That was tough. That was when I had to drive her to school every day during the sixth form. Being the good dad that I was, I let her choose the music.
Because I did that with Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, wow. Not much of a choice of mine. Now, though, she truly does have a soulmate in John. who loves her for who she is, so may they play board games happily ever after. Right, where do we go now? What else do we have? Yes, of course, food. I think John touched on this subject. Emily's always enjoyed a tuck. Back in the day, it was probably buttered Scotch pancakes on a winter Sunday afternoon by the fire, or a cake at any time. I think it still is. As the years have gone by, she's developed an eclectic taste for pretty much anything with a bit of flavour, washed down with pretty much anything with a bit of alcohol. Again, I think it was reenactment which put her on that particular slippery slope, with something called Hubar, a classy cocktail of cheap red wine and coke.
Plenty of cheap red wine.
Very much her father's, and dare I say it, her mother's daughter. One theme which has been with her, but sadly not an essential part of her, has been the music of Bruce Springsteen. Foisted on her and Holly, I admit, by her loving parents. I had thought about singing my speech in his words, but couldn't really find enough songs of love and happiness to do the job. Plenty about heartache, loss and cars, but probably not best for today. So sorry about that. The other week at the stag weekend, I'd taken the wise but cowardly decision to stay in a pub up the road, away from the gulag-style accommodation where the others were. But when I booked it, I hadn't paid enough attention to the contour lines on the map, and found that it was a 1.5 miles walk up a steep hill onto the open moor. Luckily, it was a clear, still night, at least I think it was, when I definitely wended my way up the hill. As is often the case, I popped on the old iPod Mini, funnily enough loaded exclusively with Bruce songs. And it's also often the case, Bruce knew exactly what to sing as I made it back to the pub. I think the word for this is serendipity. It's when last November, when I was in London, emerging from Oxford Street Tube to see the Christmas lights, what came up on the iPod but Santa Claus is coming to town. Despite what I said earlier, Bruce always does have the right words for the occasional mood. In many ways, he's my invisible friend, who's always there with good advice. So, note to Emily and John, listen to more Springsteen. While I'm mentioning invisible friends, this is something I caught from Emily. She had, and I'm not sure if she still has them with her, but a group of invisible pets who followed her around, especially on car journeys, travelling alongside us wherever we were going. So, what was that? 18, 19? They got left. Anyway, back to Bruce and his words of wisdom for me. Thinking about what to say today as I climbed the hill and gazed out across the starlit moors. Don't worry, just some short quotes from that sequence of songs which generally came up on the iPod for our bride, not a whole concert. So from Badlands, it ain't no sin to be glad you're alive. Better days. These are better days, baby. They're better days shining through. These are better days. Better days with a girl like you. Happy. In a world of doubt and fear, I wake at night and reach to find you near. Born to run, of course. We're going to get to that place where we really want to go. God, dear, Bruce makes me emotional. And we'll walk in the sun. But till then, tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. Of course, the last of these involved a full volume sing-along. So if you go to the Derbyshire moors today, you may hear tell of the strange legend of the howling badger. One of my happiest recent memories of Emily is from being at Wembley Stadium with her and Sue last summer. At a Springsteen.
Can you guess what we were doing?
Now, I had promised to myself not to mention what's happening at Wembley today as an Arsenal fan, but too late, sorry. Anyway, last summer we got into the pit for Springsteen's gig there. And I reckon Emily really did enjoy it, despite what she might say. No more so than when the boss started his final encore of an acoustic solo version of Thunder Road, my favourite song ever, and team hugs and tears ensued. So if you're unlucky, and I've had enough to drink, you might get another version. The final theme, says Emily, that's woven deep within her, and at this point I think I really will embarrass her, is her caring nature. It doesn't matter who it is, Emily will always try to see things from their point of view. So a bit of advice and a challenge for you, John. Persuade her to put herself first, even if it's just now and again. Being here in this early 17th century building, used as a Quaker meeting house since 1700, in the midst of this classic sheep-rearing landscape fringed by its wilder moors, it's an ideal setting for Emily, not only because of this being an area where they've shared so many special moments together, but also because I think it's symbolic of where and how she feels we fit into the bigger picture, which we've also seen reflected in the beautiful ceremony just now. By understanding where we fit into the landscape, history and spirit of place, we understand ourselves that much better and have a better chance to keep life and ourselves in perspective. Probably enough philosophy. So can I finish after saying a few more words to John? John, we've got to know you over the last 3 or 4 years, and we've got used to you being part of the family already, you so kindly mentioned. We know you're such a good match for Emily, and have already been through a few trials and tribulations, and are here to make the biggest commitment you could to one another. You're everything we could ask for in a son. Guitar playing, board gaming, whiskey drinking, bird watching. What else matters? Oh yes, loving, thoughtful and kind, which is also what you are. So we welcome you with open arms and wave you off on your wedding day, not as Bruce would have had it, as you step into that long black limousine, as you step into that big white van for your mystery ride. May it bring you much joy down the road as you both pull out of here to win. A toast to Emily and John.